If you're getting ready to buy property in the Dominican Republic, your dream vacation home or a place you're gonna move to, I'm gonna talk about two very different common options people need to choose between, the pros and cons of both, and we're gonna deep dive how the most popular option for buying here actually works with real numbers. So let's dive in. My name's Jamie Gruber. I live in the Dominican Republic and I have since 2022, and we purchased the home that I'm in right now as a resale property, land in the Miches area, and a pre-construction property here in Punta Cana. And on this channel, I try to share little lessons learned by me that hopefully help all of you. Pre-construction has become a very popular way to buy property here in the Dominican Republic for a lot of different reasons. The other growing option is buying resale now that more and more properties have actually been built. And the question I get often, and even for myself had to ponder, is which one is better? How do they both work? Should I buy pre-construction and wait, or should I buy something that's already built? Well, here's everything for you to consider on both. All right, we're gonna start with pre-construction right here. This is the PC that I put up here. There's three positives, there's more, but three positives in particular that I could think about when it comes to pre-construction buying. Number one is financing. Financing is probably the biggest reason why pre-construction is as popular as it is. There's no interest up front. It's low dollars to put down up front. There's flexible payment terms that you have with the developer, and you're not worried about banks at all. You're dealing directly with the developer. It's very easy, very attractive, and that's what I'm gonna break down here in a second and show you specifically how it would work on a fictional property. The second thing that's popular with pre-construction is, look, you get your own thing. You can customize it to some extent. You can choose different fixtures, fittings, whatever, and have your own brand new space that no one's ever lived in. Some people want that. And the third one is exactly that. It's new. It's brand new, untouched. You don't have to worry about what happened here before, what did somebody else do. But to be honest with you, brand new can also be a con, and we'll get into that. Now, on pre-construction, let's talk about some of the cons right now. First one is delays. On a previous video, I talked about how permitting and even labor to some extent can cause delays in the finishing of your construction project. The one that I bought is delayed, but for me, it's not a big deal because I see it being built and I understand what's going on with it. But there's a lot of people that have purchased here with a hope that they would have their retirement property or dream vacation home done by a certain date, and they are 1, 2, even 3 years delayed in some cases with getting their property completed by the developer. And with that said, there's a lot of developing happening, which means you're going to deal with either oversupply and or cookie cutter construction potentially, and that may be a no-go for you. Really all depends on the project you select, of course, but that's the challenge. But in general, if you look at pre-construction, it is the easiest to finance, but will give you the most brain damage, figuratively speaking, of course. Now let's flip that over to the resale side. You're gonna buy something that's already constructed, something somebody else already owned. The positives of that is you're not gonna deal with delays or construction issues. You're not gonna deal with developers. In fact, when we bought this house, we considered buying land and building our own thing. And our realtor, because we have a very good realtor, said, hey, look, I know you, I love you, you have kids, you're looking to kind of begin your life. I know you think you might be able to manage this because you're local and get it done within a year. It'll take years off your life if you do that on your own. Now again, that is a single family home, not an entire project where there's teams of developers building this thing. When you're buying inside of a larger project, an apartment building, a condo complex, way less need for you to be on top of the developer. Well, you hope at least. But for our own personal home, we decided retail because we didn't want delays, we didn't want to deal with construction. Second is that it's a proven asset. It's already been purchased by somebody, built, used, and you know what the goods and bads of it are. As much as pre-construction gives you shiny and new, within 3 or 4 months, you could see issues, problems, hopefully covered by a warranty, but you get my point. Whereas with a completed home, it's proven. You know what's good and what's bad. Where's the water leakage? What needs to be fixed? Is there mold? You can figure that all out before you buy it. And last, and this might be most important for American buyers, is you get title right away pretty much. Whereas with the pre-construction, you're gonna have to wait for title until it's done and paid. When you buy resale, title's already issued. And despite what some may think, there is a very good registry of deeds here in the Dominican Republic, especially in areas like Punta Cana, Santo Domingo, Santiago, that are well surveyed and historic. You get up into the more nether regions of the country, make sure your lawyer is working for you, no matter where, but especially there. Now, the downside to resale is that if you're not buying cash, financing can be a lot more burdensome by way of a mortgage. Now, we did end up getting a mortgage on this property. We actually had a way easier time using a mortgage broker instead of a bank directly, going directly to a bank. We tried both routes. Oh my God, banks. The mortgage broker was much better for us, but still, it took a lot more effort than normal, or shouldn't say normal, but what we're used to in the US to get a mortgage here. Second, and this was a big one for us, was the bank transfer. When you buy a property resale, most places down here do not have escrow accounts. In fact, that's not even a thing down here, truly. So in our case, we sent hundreds of thousands of dollars in down payment for the house that we purchased directly to the seller before we had the mortgage. I know. Again, we know a little bit more now than we did then, and there are some brokers that have a separate account. It's not an actual legal escrow, but at least it's a third-party account that you can deposit your funds in rather than it going directly to the seller. But some sellers may not even allow that to happen, so it really depends on the transaction. I could speak directly to Cheryl Henderson, who's a broker that I've invested with in her development company, and I refer one of the top realtors in her firm to people all the time, and he's done a great job. She has, with her firm, I think it's Cheryl Henderson Real Estate, I think that's what it's called, like an account that acts as escrow, a third-party bank account that funds can be deposited in. But again, you're transferring this money into another country, which can feel alarming if it's a lot of money buying resale without the transaction being done. In fact, even when we closed with the bank, we still couldn't move into the house and get keys for 3 or 4 more weeks while the bank filed everything with the DGII, which is the Dominican IRS. So all our money, all our equity from the sale of our house in the United States was in somebody's account that owned this house. The bank had the mortgage, everything was signed, but we didn't have keys to come in here for weeks. Yeah, even if you're buying cash, that cash being moved, it can be stressful. And lastly, it's a risk is, hey, it is dated. It's not brand new, right? You have something that you have to now maybe update. We had to do some updates on this house. The good news is the cost of updates are way less than what you'll pay in the States. I mean, to be honest with you, we put about $50,000 into this house after we bought it, and we got it for a lot less than the market. But within that $50,000, to give you an idea of what we could get done, we painted the entire exterior, almost 4,000 square feet. It's a big house for $1,500. Imagine what that would cost you to paint an exterior of a 4,000 square foot home in the United States. So if I went to what I was saying earlier about pre-construction, it is easier to finance, but more brain damage because you're waiting on construction. Whereas if I went to resale, it would be the flip. Less brain damage, harder to finance. That's the consideration you have to make. Let's boil this down and use a real example. Actually, I'll use my calculator here and we'll just do an example of a property. Let's say you're gonna buy something for $360,000. That's how much you're gonna buy it US. Ignore the DOP USD thing. That's just an easy calculator for me. Oh. And I even didn't do it right. There we go. There's $360,000. So you're doing this pre-construction. What you would normally do is you'd go to the developer and they would have a reservation fee that they would charge you. Let's say in this case it's $5,000. So you put $5,000 down and that leaves you a $355,000 balance. Now, once that reservation is signed and you've given the $5,000 check, which happens when you're on vacation, they give you an estimated completion date. Let's say it's 36 months, 3 years for the sake of argument. Back here, I wrote it all down. $360,000, $5,000 reservation, 36 months. We're working around these parameters. Within 30 days, you're going to have to put down 20% total minus the $5,000. So in this case, if it's $360,000, you would take 20%, which is $72,000, minus the $5,000 you already put down, and you would need to write a check for, what is that, $67,000 for the down payment. So there you go. We have $67,000 plus the $5,000, all within the first 30 days. Immediately $5,000, and once the contract is executed, you owe the down payment of 20%. So you're in. 72 grand with the developer. Then what they'll do is tell you the percentage that needs to be paid off to them before the project is completed in 36 months. And they'll set up a payment timeline for you. So going back to $360,000, you've already put $20,000 down or $72,000. In many cases, they'll say, well, we want it to be 50% paid off at the time we deliver it to you in 36 months. We've already put 20 down, so you owe 30% over the next 3 years. So if you take 30% of $360,000, that's $108,000 that you're going to have to pay in installments between now and the delivery date in 36 months. If you do that monthly, that would be $3,000 a month. So every month for the next 36, you're paying $3,000 until you reach the day that it's delivered to you. And at that point, you've paid 50% of the purchase price of the property and you owe the other 50. They have other payment plan options. You could pay quarterly, like $9,000, maybe biannually. I don't know. Every developer's a little bit different. And also, sometimes you could put as little as 10% down and finance 40, or they want 60% total before they deliver the property. So it all depends on the individual developer. A key number to know is this number right here of how much you put down, 20%. At the point at which you've put 20% down, whether it's after 30 days over here, or it's some other sort of payment plan, like 10% now and then 10% in the next 3 months, whenever 20% is affected, in most cases, this is where the developer will release the commission to the realtor that brought you this deal. Why that's significant is this is going to be a true test of how good your realtor is. On this channel, I did a video about great realtors, or ones that stick with you all the way through. They're in touch with the developer until this project is done. You're married to them for the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, however long it takes for this project to get done. And then the day it closes and you get your keys, they're going to be there with you. There are some agents, and some with big firms here, quite a few actually, that once they get this, now it's your problem. They got their commission. We sold you the property. Everything's done. We did our job. No bueno, not according to me anyway. Now, once this is all done and you've got the project, let's say they deliver it right on time in 36 months, the other thing you need to prepare for is the other 50% of your purchase price. So you will have paid $180,000 over the course of 3 years. You got to come up with the other $180,000 at the end. The developer's not going to finance you. There's no such thing as a mortgage that is secured against your Dominican property in the United States or Canada, meaning you can't go to a bank in the States and say, hey, I need a $180,000 loan for my property down in DR. You have a few options. So number one, obviously you could pay cash. You might have $180,000. Maybe it's from an inheritance, maybe from savings, whatever, but maybe you're selling off some other things. $180,000 cash, boom, it's paid, it's done. The second thing you could do is a HELOC on your property in the United States. So if you've got that kind of equity, you could borrow against your own home, a home equity line of credit or a home equity loan. If you have $180,000 worth, then you can put that down on your property to pay off the balance down here. And everything is just rolled into your personal home back in the States, or some combination of the two. There's other options like a 401k loan. You can only take usually up to $50,000 per person, but if there's two in the household, you each take 50, that's $100,000. Maybe you have another $80,000 in equity in your home or $80,000 cash. You could do it that way as well. Ideally, you're paying cash. Debt is not a big feature down here, but ideally you're paying cash. The last option is simply you get a mortgage here in the Dominican Republic. Whether you're a US citizen, Canadian citizen, EU citizen, no ties to DR, you absolutely can get a mortgage down here. I said before, banks are tough. I'd get a mortgage broker. The one I used was excellent. They're called YPC. I've got a referral form linked down below, or you can go anytime to jamiegruber.com/referrals, and all of my referral partners are on that website. But a mortgage is another option. But if you're going to do it, I would start talking to that mortgage broker the day that you decide to buy a property here, because they can show you all the ways over the next 2 or 3 years for you to prepare your financial profile for a Dominican bank to accept it with the best possible terms. Don't wait until we'll wait a year or two, then we'll talk to a mortgage broker. Do it now, or a bank now. I still say the broker is a better way. They will cost you a fee. It's not like in the US where the mortgage broker is only paid by the bank once they bring them to them. They are, but they also are paid by you. It's 1 to 2% of the loan typically. So in this case, $180,000, you might spend $1,800 to $3,600 for this mortgage broker to do the work for you. Trust me when I say it's totally worth it. So that is that. Now, one other thing I want to share with you is other fees to expect when closing. But before I do, a quick ask. If you haven't done so already, check out the DR Inner Circle. This is my membership community. The link down below is available to you, or you can go to jamiegruber.com. But if you're investing, moving, living down here, you want to jump in with an engaged community of almost 1,000 members as I record this that are interacting, sharing experiences, sharing vendors. You need a handyman, you need a plumber, an electrician. You want a property inspector to look at your pre-construction or resale property. Discounts on insurance rates, bonus content, and a whole bunch more. Would love for you to consider being a part of it. It helps support me, this channel, the content I put out. But more than that, I think you'll get disproportionate value for what the price is to be a member of it. By the way, if you pay for the year up front, I'm going to send you a gift that I hope you really enjoy. Here are some expenses to know you're going to have when you close your property. The first one is the transfer tax, which is going to be 3% of the purchase price of the property. So for this $360,000 home, I got to do that math. I think it's $10,800. So that is the transfer tax you'll owe to the Dominican government once you buy this property. Second is a, let's say, 1-ish% fee to your attorney. So that's going to be $3,600 that you would pay there. $3,600 plus the $10,800. And the last, if you get a mortgage through the broker, is going to be 1 to 2% of the mortgage amount. So that's $180,000 times 0.02, we'll say in the high end, that's another $3,600, 2% to the mortgage broker. And that gives you a grand total of up to $18,000 that you'll have in closing costs at the time that you close. Now, if you don't want to get a lawyer, which I would not recommend, you could scratch that off. If you don't need a mortgage, you can scratch that off. And this one, the 3% transfer tax, if you have something called CONFOTUR as a pre-construction property, if you're buying a pre-construction property as CONFOTUR, you won't need to pay this 3% transfer tax either. So the best way to consider all of this, if you're saying, okay, that gives me a lot of perspective on things, is make sure you're budgeting appropriately for the property you want to purchase, considering the upfront costs you may incur, and if it's pre-construction, considering the installment payments you're going to make over the long term and the amount that you're going to owe at the end. Plan ahead, and you'll do great. Now, a lot of people may say 36 months, that's never real. And you might be right. There are reasons why there are multiple delays in pre-construction projects right now. And I broke down all of that in detail for you in this video right here. So just click on that, take a look. Would love to see you in the inner circle, and I'll see you on the next one.